back to Classic Firearms. I'm Brandon, and today we have the NEMO Mongoose. It's a 9mm PCC that has a lot of nice features baked right into it and a unique operating system, which we'll get to in just a little bit. So, without further ado, let's jump in and talk about it. Before we do that, we are going to verify some of the tech specs, such as trigger pull, weight, length, and height with measurements we take here in the studio against some of the things that they actually provide us on websites. So we will be doing that. And then first things first, we're going to start out with tech specs. So let's dive into that without too much more talking. Here, again, we have the NEMO Mongoose. It has a 5.8-inch barrel. It is 1 in 10 twist rate with a 1/2x28 thread pitch on there, and there is a thread protector over that barrel. It is inside this shroud, or as some would call it, comp, because it is actually comped upwards and out to the sides. Makes it pretty cool. Your overall length is 13.67 inches with a weight of 3.6 pounds. You do get a magazine that holds more than your standard capacity of an average AR-15 magazine. That's all I could say for YouTube compliance purposes. You're also going to get a Magpul MOE grip right out of the box, which is really cool. There is a version that does come with a brace on this one. However, you can put pretty much whatever you want on here because there's a 1913 Picatinny rail on the back. What's also nice is there is a charging handle on the side, so instead of the rear like an AR-15 style. However, it is non-reciprocating, so when you're firing it, you're not going to worry about catching your hand if you have a good C-clamp grip on here. Last but not least, you do get some ambi controls on here, such as safety and mag release as well. So let's go ahead and dive in tip to butt as what makes this so special. So let's go ahead. Right in front of us, you can see that this thing is tiny. So first things first, it's expensive, right? So you can find this anywhere from the $1,600 to $2,000. So this is not a cheap PCC by any stretch of the imagination. However, I would argue that this thing at least makes a decent case as to why it is so expensive. So I'll kind of jump into that in a minute. It is thin and all aluminum. The only polymer part is the MOE grip that it comes with, but that's also very solid. Everything else that you're seeing here, including the mag release, or everything is very premiumly made. So that's what you would expect for the price, of course, being a PCC. So on the tip, you do have a comp. Now that comp does come off. You can remove it. I can't necessarily show that all the time on YouTube, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna show you a before and after of what it looks like, so give me one sec. So here is that comp, and here is what that looks like. So if you wanna run this suppressed, you absolutely can. Even more what's interesting is in here, there is an entire, and there's no cameraman, so I'm not pointing at the cameraman, it's just me by myself. But if you look inside of here, there is an actual housing for the barrel, because it's actually just a standard pistol barrel inside here that is on a sort of Browning action, which is kind of cool. So let's show you what that looks like. So it's a tilt barrel. As you can see, let's get rid of the mag. Whenever I crank it back, it tilts up, as you would expect any Browning action gun to do. So really cool. It's got a whole slide mechanism in there. It feels very robust, and we break it down on our main channel video where we did a whole review like with live fire and everything on this thing. So very cool overall. I'm gonna go ahead and put it back together. Give me one sec. Okay, she's back together. And for the record, if you're wondering how to do that, maybe you have one of these and you didn't even know I could do that. We pretty much did the same thing here at a certain point. You actually flip this up. Well, you gotta charge it first. So open your bolts pulled back. You pull this up, and then there's this little lever that comes out right there, and then you can actually take it apart from there. Now that's just for the barrel system. This thing is also made kind of like an AR. So beyond that barrel and Picatinny rail with that M-lock that we had already discussed, you can see that there are also takedown pins like an AR, right here and right here. It does take down just like an AR. It even uses standard AR triggers. So if you want to swap out the standard grip, the trigger, whatever you want to put in there, you can customize it. You may not even want to do that because this thing's pretty good out of the box, but it is an option if you so want to do that with it. Again, that's what you expect for the price. Moving on. You do have a very nice flared mag well here. It is quite large on here, and it is integrated. So it's all part of this lower on here. That is going to allow, of course, if you almost miss, it's going to help guide you in on your reloads. So if you're trying to go quick, you can do that fairly accurately. Also something interesting, there's a little cutout right here. This actually lines up with that magazine to where you can see there's a last 10 rounds. So you can actually tell if there's 10 rounds or, well, if there's less than 10 rounds, you won't be able to see it. But up until that point, you could see if there's 10 rounds left in the magazine, which is kind of cool. Down to the actual magazine release, this is very interesting here. So as you can see, it is kind of like an AK style. It's not a rock and lock or anything like that, but you have that paddle that then pulls out. You also have ambi controls for it too, so you can push it from either side with just an index finger. So if you're a righty or a lefty, this entire firearm, with the exception of the charging handle, is ambi, which is cool. However, it makes this really satisfying sound. Give me 1 second. I'm going to let you listen to this. It really just feels like it is built well, and it sounds like it too. So whenever you are putting in that mag or releasing it, it is very satisfying. You know exactly when it's in there. Some PCCs do that as well. However, this one does it exceptionally well. It may not come through on camera as well as I'm making it out to be. However, if you do it in person, you'll know exactly what I mean. Someone who's used it, please let us know in the comments because it's actually really nice. Okay, moving on. You do have ambi bolt catches, so just above that trigger guard right here. So you can, if you don't have the mag in there, it does have the ability to grab that like you would a standard AR. And then, of course, that release just above. It also works in reverse, so you have the exact same controls on the other side. Moving down to that trigger guard, again, that's all aluminum here, right behind that mag release. It is thinned out just a little bit for that mag release, so you actually have a really nice area to push that mag without the trigger guard getting in the way, which some people who do that don't always do it as nicely as this is done. They're nice soft edges. You're not going to cut yourself or catch yourself on anything in there. The trigger, and this gun is unloaded here. We always unload every gun before we ever get into a video, is quite nice. Let me show you what I mean. So right out of the box, it's very light. I didn't mean to pull it all the way. There's a little bit of take up, just a little bit of movement, and then a nice crisp break. Let me show you what the reset looks like as well. Just a little bit of movement. There it goes, very tactile. Push it back and you're good to go. So that wall is right, it's all the way out. It feels like you're right on the wall right away. It's a good trigger. It's not a great trigger, it's a good trigger, and it feels really nice out of the box, that is for sure. Now, as we head on back, we do have that 1913 Picatinny rail, which I had discussed earlier. So let's go ahead and actually verify some of these measurements because they don't give us a width. And I think that's actually one of the more, like when you pick this up, you notice it's about as wide as a pistol, like an actual pistol, not just a pistol caliber carbine. It's much thinner than most. So I really want to see exactly how wide that is. So let's start out with the tape measure and kind of go from there. All right, and we have that tape measure. So without anything here, let's take the mag out so we can get a good idea. We're gonna measure that overall length. And just as a reminder, it's at 13.67, which is specific enough to make me think that it is exactly 13.67. It is exactly 13.67. Let me reverse that so you can actually see it a little bit better. There you go. So now you can see that it is literally 13.67 inches. So it's one of the first places that gives me an exact measurement to where I didn't think I had to measure it right out of the box. So that's kind of cool. From the grip to the actual top of the firearm, you're looking at about 7 1/4 inches for that bottom of that MOE grip. I'll give you one more look at that. Right there. Perfect. So that overall feels very nice. Next thing we're going to do, and we're going to keep the mag out for this, is show it with the trigger pull. So let's go ahead and charge it. Again, it's clear, always clear before we ever start filming. I'm going to support the gun with my right hand and then pull with my left hand in 3, 2. Right around 2.6 pounds. So my guess, if we keep redoing this 3 for good measure, we're going to find that it's really close to that 3-pound mark in 3, 2. 3.1. It feels like a 3-pound trigger, so I'm not overly surprised about that. One more time for good measure. I try to do it as close to the middle of the trigger as I possibly can. However, it doesn't always work to be the best that way, so I try to do it just a little bit above and a little bit below, and then one right in the middle, because your finger may not always be right in the middle of the trigger. In 3, 2, yeah, 3.5. So that right there feels very nice and accurate. Right around 3, like higher 2s to like mid 3s is where that trigger pull is going to be, depending on where on the trigger you grab it exactly. All right, now for the final piece, let's go ahead and measure it. We'll measure it with the mag and without the mag as far as weight goes. Okay, scales on the table, guns right here. Without the mag first, we are looking at 3.64 pounds. Now, 3.6 pounds is what they quoted on the website, and this is doing that without that mag being inserted. So let's go ahead and get that in there and see what that is. Right around 3.9 pounds. So we'll call it a 4-pound, if you're rounding up, gun with the mag inserted with no ammo in it, which is still really good for a PCC. Now for the final measurement, I did not forget about it. I want to see exactly what the width on this is. So with that flared mag, well, it looks like it's going to be the widest part of the entire PCC here. That is 1.5, like 1 3/4 inches wide, which means that the rest of this is going to be just over 1 1/4. Let's see, 1.5 right here at the knuckle portion, and everything else is about just a little bit wider than the Picatinny rail, which is just a little under 1 inch. But so yeah, 1 1/4 inches is most of this gun. 1.5 right at the knuckle, and then 1.75 right at that flared mag well. It's super thin and super light. This is a easy backpack gun if that's what you're looking for. Something that you can take hiking with you in that backpack, or something that you can just take to the range and have a ton of fun with. So the way that I believe that they justify that price is because of things like the build quality. Everything's aluminum on this. You have a unique system inside of here with a Browning action kind of style barrel, tilt barrel as it fires, which is just unique and very reliable. May cause some problems when you're trying to suppress it. That's for you to find out. You also are going to get compatible Scorpion mags, which is always good. They feed reliably. You get a good trigger out of the box, and you're also getting upgraded controls, which includes the grip, the safeties, the ambi, pretty much everything. So in my humble opinion, and that's my opinion because I've shot this thing, if you can't tell, I'm a little biased. It's one of the most fun guns I have shot in a long time as far as PCCs go, especially when you get a nice brace on there. And yes, I've shot a lot of PCCs. We may have something pretty big coming up about that in the future on the main channel. However, thank you so much for making it to this point in the video. If you have any experience with the NEMO Mongoose, please leave a review down below. We would love to see your comments. Now that is all I have for you guys today. God bless, stay safe. It is time to end. Now, I want to go shoot this some more.